Hi, in this segment we are going to introduce direct object pronouns in French. Direct object pronouns in French. Many English speakers who study French are puzzled by direct object pronouns in French. This looks like a complex subject, but there are specific rules that make them actually easy to understand. Let's look at it in English. So in English, as in French, we use pronouns so that we don't repeat nouns. For example, we would say, I read the book. And then I want to say, I lent the book to my sister. So I'm going to say, then I lent it to my sister. When I'm saying that, I'm replacing the book by it. It is an object pronoun. If the direct object, in this sentence, it's an object, it's really an object, but it could be a person. For example, people like John, and I want to replace John by saying something. I would say they, for saying people, they invited him to a party. So in this case, I'm replacing John by him. John is a person, him is an object pronoun. Well, in French, it's just the same. There is just a difference is that in French, every noun has a gender. It's not only humans and animals that have a gender, it's also every object, a tree, a flower, a book, everything. Therefore, the pronoun that replaces the noun also changes. It depends on the gender of the noun. So we need to know the gender of the noun. So we have two complexities. One of them is that we need to know the gender of the noun. The second problem that makes it a little bit more complex is that we also need to know what kind of objects is the verb going to call. In English, some verbs call for a direct object while they need an indirect object in French. So what kind of object is the verb calling for? I'm going to give you an example. For example, in English we would say, I call Jane. I call somebody, which is I telephone them. In French, if I translate this, I would say, je téléphone à Jane. So in this case, this Jane is a direct object. I call Jane. In the second case, Jane is an indirect object. It's introduced by the preposition a, which is calling for indirect objects. So the same verb, téléphoner and call, one of them going direct object, the other one going indirect object. So I need to know what kind of verbs in French are calling for a direct object if I want to replace Jane or whatever the direct object is by a pronoun. This being said, when we know the gender, we are fine. We can figure out there are rules for that. Let's take an example. Let's take a word a noun that has a masculine article. Le livre, the book. The book. And let's take another one that is feminine. La robe, the dress. And let's take one with plural. les, les plats, the dishes. The dishes. Now, let's use them in sentences where they are objects. But there are different articles. For example, I can say le livre. I can say mon livre, my book. I can say ce livre, this book. And I can use sentences to say I take the book. Je prends le livre. Or I can say je prends mon livre. Mon livre. I can say je prends ce livre. I take this book. So just like in English, if I say I take the book, my book, or this book, I'm going to say I take it, no matter which one. Well, in French it's the same. Le livre, mon livre, and ce livre are going to be replaced by the same pronoun, that is le. And I'm going to say je le prends. In this case, le is replacing le livre, mon livre, or ce livre. Je le prends. As you can notice, the pronoun goes before the verb. The pronoun goes before the verb. In English, I would say I take it. The pronoun goes after the verb. In French, it goes before the verb. Now, if it's a feminine one, let's do I put on the dress. Je mets la robe. Or je mets sa robe. I'm putting on her dress. Sa robe. Or je mets cette robe, this dress. I'm putting on this dress. No matter what, I'm going to replace it by je la mets. I'm putting it. La is replacing la robe or sa robe or cette robe, as in English you would say it. And finally, plural form. Let's say we're taking, I'm giving the dishes. Je donne les plats. Or je donne nos plats. Or je donne ses plats. No matter what, I'm going to end up saying je les donne. I'm giving them. This is replacing the whole formula. Them. In another segment, we're going to see how the object will be replaced if it's a person or an animal. Until now, we had objects that are objects. Now we have to look at objects that are actually people or animals. So that in English we'd say, John gives me the book. John gives me. And we have to see how do we say that in French. Hopefully this was helpful.